Good afternoon and welcome everybody. I'd like to call to order the regular council meeting of February 5th, 2024. I believe Tom has an opening comment.
Yeah, just a reminder to everyone that country music artist Aaron Pritchett is coming to the Badlands Community Facility on February 16th. This is one of 29 stops in his tour, and he's very highly regarded country music singer along with Matt Lang and Corey Marks. So get your tickets for the Aaron Pritchett concert on February 16th at the BCF.
Thank you for that. I'd ask if there's any additions to the agenda today. Hearing none, I'd ask for a motion to adopt. Tony? Second.
I move that council adopt the agenda for the February 5th, 2024 regular council meeting as presented.
Second, Stephanie. All in favor? Carried. I'll note that joining us remotely are Councillor Crystal Solera and Mayor Heather Colberg. Now I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the January 29th regular council meeting minutes. Stephanie?
I move the council approve the minutes for the January 29th, 2024 regular council meeting as presented.
Second. Tom? Questions or comments? All in favor? Carried. Yeah. We do have a public hearing scheduled for 5:30, so what we'll do in our agenda is we'll move to 7.11, request for decision, proposed bylaw 0624.
Thank you, Pat. So there are 3 road closure bylaws to go through in Rosedale today, and these are all related to the Rosedale berm construction that is coming forward in 2025 or 2026. So the first one on the docket is the 0624, which is the Mabbott Road closure. And so this one's the if I talk, this is the least interesting of the 3, but Mabbott Road parking lot is actually a road right of way. So the parking lot that's adjacent to and that people use to park at for the suspension bridge is actually a road right of way. This is related to when the Star Mine was in existence, that all of that road or all of that land was turned over to the province as well as the bridge, and that was all converted into a road right of way. There is, if you look on the drawing that is attached in the agenda, sorry, there is a extra road plan that's in there. So despite the fact that the whole area was identified as a road right of way, there was actually a specific road access that was added to give access to the property that's lot 17, block 9, and the plan that's there. So, which is 515 Mabbott Road. And so so we're not going to close that. We really need to close the extra road B, or sorry, area A as identified as the cross hatching on the map. And we are doing that because the berm construction will be going parallel to the Red Deer River across that property. And so again, for all of our road closures, we're having to actually close, and we have to own the land that our berms are going on. And so we need to actually close this and take ownership of this piece of land here. So I am just going to switch over for 1 second and show. I thought I was going to do that. Apparently I'm not going to. So Mabbott Road is right here. I believe everyone can see this. I hope they can. Is that something everyone can see? Oh, it's taking a second here. hold on. Sorry, we'll try this one more time. So there we go. So the area that we're looking at in here, so on an aerial photo of it, the land that's shown between these two lines is going to remain, it's an approximate area in there, it's going to remain as a road right of way or through an easement to allow access for this property here. The berm construction is slated to go parallel right along where my mouse is going in here. And so we are going to be taking some of this parking lot away and actually putting a berm through there, except for this in front of the access to the suspension bridge will be a stop log structure. So basically it'll be like a fence that we will have set up on site that we can easily install or uninstall. Very similar to what Calgary has and some other cities like that. It's a very small width in there that will not be an earthen berm, but everything else will be. So what we're looking for is, is to have first reading of this 0624, as well as set a public hearing for Monday, March the 4th, 2024.
Thank you. Is there a motion? Tony?
I move that council give first reading to Rosedale Mabbott Road closure bylaws 06.24 and set the public hearing date for March 4, 2024.
Second? Crystal? Discussion?
Oh, no discussion.
Oh, pardon me. Yes, these are first readings, so these will wait till second reading for discussion on these. Thank you.
If there was discussion, if you had it before, if you had questions before we make the motion, then that, like, we would do that. That would be fine. So
that'd be okay. Okay, pardon me. 7.1.2, proposed bylaw 7.
did everyone pass it?
Oh, all in favor? Carried.
Okay.
7.1.2.
Okay, so just give me 1 second here. This is so this is bylaw 0724. So this is Pinter Drive. So again, the berm construction is going to go sort of parallel to the river right in this area. It's going to cut next to this parcel of land here at 119, and then take a 90-degree bend and go up behind these parcels in here. Because this is a road right of way in here, we need to actually, and we're crossing it, we need to actually close this road right of way. What we've requested at the same time is, we own this land here. This was recently acquired to repair the suspension bridge, and so we acquired it in 2023. So again, this is private land or land held by the town, but this is an old public right of way. So we're requesting that we actually have this closed at the same time. This land there is no access there. It's just side of a hill going up top, but we do have access down here. So we want to be able to close this off. And because this parcel in here goes right to the river, we want to extend this as well. What makes this one in particular a bit more interesting is that the land survey from 1927 in this area actually shows that the Red Deer River crosses through where my mouse is in here and sort of follows through. And this was an island at that point. So it was a completely separate piece of land. And why that's important is that in land titles requirements, islands, unless they're specifically owned, are titled to the province. And then any river is also titled to the province, except if the riverbed dries up or otherwise has been altered, then each owner of the adjacent property contains 50% of the riverbed dried riverbed, so it goes to the center of the riverbed. And so in this case here, when this was filled in at some point in time, and you can see that on the legal drawings, and it was but on the legal land description, it shows that this is still a separate parcel of land, and that there's actually a tiny little piece in here. So there's 3 parcels on the survey plan that show that need to be closed as part of this. And so we want to be able to do all of this at the same time, which is why we're recommending taking this right to the river on this piece right here. So, before we make a motion, does anyone have any questions on that? If you think I've confused you yet, wait till the next one. So we're just getting warmed up. So, yeah. Well, this actually, and part of it, Councillor Zarisky, so this was the old MD of Badlands, so there was a lot of really interesting stuff done in Rosedale that was done 100 years ago that never ever got fixed because we never thought there was ever a need to do anything. So, Tom?
Just an aside, now that the swinging bridge is open and this roadway on the other side of the river was used to fix it, conceivably you could now walk from the swinging bridge right to the hoodoos, could you not?
Yes, you can. Yes. So part of the work I believe we're doing this year is actually going to be fixing up that road. We had to fix the roadway to get equipment in, but we're making it suitable that you could ride a bike or walk all the way to the hoodoos from the suspension bridge if you wanted to. Yes.
Hearing no other questions, could I get a motion? Stephanie?
I move that council give first reading to Rosedale Pincher Drive Road Closure Bylaw 07.24 and set the public hearing date for March 4th, 2024.
Second? Heather? All in favor? Carried. It's, 0924.
Okay, so this one, I'm going to use sorry, just give me 1 second, please, everyone. Okay, so, sorry, I'm just going to share my screen again one more time with everyone. So 0924 is to close First Avenue South in Rosedale. So you can see for those looking at this, there are a lot of parcels here. So one of the first things that sort of sticks out to those is that the Rosebud River, as we know it today, is not where it was originally placed or originally surveyed in the 1900s, early 1900s. The original Rosebud River actually did this big curve in here and then tied into the river as it sits now. As a matter of fact, it went across and went this direction here, but we'll get into that another day. And so what's happened in here is when the Rosebud River was rerouted by Alberta Transportation back in the 50s, they never corrected any of the issues in here with respect to lands pieces, in part because they own roads. They didn't think they needed to do anything. We are now constructing our berm, the Scarlet Berm, along this area right in here, sort of along here. And so as a result of that, we need to close part of this road that the berm is actually sitting on already and that the new berm will be sitting on top of as well. But as we were going through this, we've recognized that there are a whole bunch of opportunities for improvement in this area. So starting at these little parcels in here, these F, G, H, J, K, and L. This is a part of the street. Again, why this exists like this, we're not sure, except every one of those parcels has structures on it. So there's garages and sheds and everything for the adjacent landowners. So we want to close the road to be able to ultimately sell the land to the people who have been using it for ever on there. We need to close this parcel here, area E, because this is where the berm's going to go on it. We've actually want to close it a little bit further along because we are actually encroaching with the roadway on some of these parcels that are right in here. So we want to also readjust our road and make it correct to everybody. This area right in here, which is area D and C, has a town of Drumheller lift station on it, so a sewage lift station. So it's actually a structure. It's a small little building and fenced in area. So again, it's on a road right of way. Normally you don't put, even though you might have infrastructure under the ground, you don't have it on top of the ground. So we thought we might as well try to close this off if we can, so we can get some of this stuff resolved at the same time. And then that's also what's happening with these little parcels down here, basically trying to clean a lot of this stuff up. Part of our berm has to go around the lift station, so to be able to protect it from flooding. And so again, some of this is just closing off the road so we can place our infrastructure on top of it. I think that's as far as I'm going to go with that. So any questions on this one? No? 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 Okay.
Just a comment, Daryl, thank you for you guys going through and getting this all done up. So it's on the record correct. So thanks for the work by everyone on that.
Hearing no further comments, could I get a motion on the proposed bylaw? Tom?
I move that council give first reading to Rosedale First Avenue South Road Closure Bylaw 09.24 and set the public hearing date for March the 4th, 2024.
Second? Tony? All in favor? Carried. Moving on, we can go to 7.2.1, request for decision, resolution for expropriation and notice of intention. Deegan?
Thank you. I have two requests for decision before council this evening relating to acquiring the land that we need for the Knack Mine Berm project. So this is the first stage in the expropriation process. And the first request for decision relates to property located at 215 8th Street in Knack Mine. So we have had discussions with that impacted landowner since August of 2023. And we have made an offer of fair market value to purchase the land we need to construct the berm and the adjacent swale and purchase the remnant piece. And the landowner has not accepted our offer to date. And so we're starting with the first step in expropriation, which is the resolution for expropriation. And we would like to file a notice of intention to expropriate with land titles. And then that will be given to the landowner to inform them that the process has started.
Thank you. Questions? Or motion first, pardon me. Could I get a motion on that request then? Tony?
I move that council approve the resolution for expropriation and notice of intention to expropriate pertaining to a portion of land described as Plan 865 FG Lot 5, Title Number 152 U157.
Second? Crystal? Comments, questions? Tony?
Okay, just to reiterate again, so negotiations have happened. They haven't been accepted, but this doesn't negate negotiations going forward. This is just the start of a process.
Yeah, that's right. Because of the timelines associated with the expropriation process, we do want to start it early on in case we have to follow through with the process. However, our land agent is still speaking with this particular landowner and trying to come to a resolution.
Further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Carried. 7.2.2.
So the second request for decision we have before council relates to the land acquisition required to build a berm behind the property located at 724 Hunter Drive in Akmine. And I apologize for the lengthy title. That's how it appears and is registered with the land titles office. So that's going to be a long one in the resolution. But again, we have to use the proper legal description there. So similar with this one, we did start discussions with the landowners in August of 2023, and they have been ongoing. We haven't been able to come to a resolution on this one either. So again, we are starting the expropriation process with the first step here today, and negotiations can still continue with the impacted landowner in this case. We are looking at partial acquisition in this case of the land that we need to build the berm. And should this pass this evening, the notice of intention to expropriate will be given to the affected property owners, and it will also be advertised in the paper as per the required process.
Thank you. Does anybody want to read this motion? Tom?
I move that council approve the resolution for expropriation and notice of intention to expropriate pertaining to a portion of land described as Plan 201EO, Parcel C containing quarter section acres more or less, northeast 3.68, southeast 0.02, excepting firstly the westerly 137 feet of the southerly 160 feet of the said parcel C, containing 0.05 of an acre more or less. Secondly, those portions on the following plan number acres more or less, northeast 1/4, southeast 1/4, drainage ditch 5475H6, 0.85, 0.02, title number 151173810.
Thank you. Did he?
You actually said,
Pardon?
Tom, sorry, but I think you actually said H6, not HX.
Drainage ditch 5475HX. Thought he said X.
With that correction, do we have a second? Tony? Discussion? Heather?
Same thing with this one, Dagan, I assume that it's again open for discussion if there can come to some resolution before it goes forward.
Yes, for sure. At this stage, we are still open to discuss with the landowner, and I believe they are looking at getting some additional appraisals done for the property as well. So we would be happy to look at that information and review our offer at that time.
Thank you.
Hearing no further discussion, all in favor? Carried. What time is it? Yeah. Yeah, okay. We'll go with 7.4, Manager of Recreation, Arts and Culture, for the 2024 Recreation Work Plan, Master Plan Work Plan.
Okay. I'm assuming everyone has the document in front of them? Okay. So I'm gonna have to do this by memory, so bear with me. So the last couple of meetings, we've had a discussion about the master plan, the Parks and Master Plan, concerning what we would do with the area in Newcastle. And essentially what we're looking for is confirmation that we can go ahead and do the things that we have planned out in that master plan that I've presented to you once before, a couple times before now. So that includes the Newcastle Beach. We would keep it fairly simple as far as what we would want to do there, as far as keeping it to picnic tables, sand, maybe some shading, and the linked fence to separate the um, dock and the beach. The second thing we would want to do is fix, from a safety point of view, fix all of the ball diamonds, and which includes the three ball diamonds. Thank you very much. So if you don't mind, I'll just come back to the summary. So the Parks and Recreation Plan was first adopted by the council on July 24th. The master plan is a long-range planning document providing direction and managing development, parks and recreation facilities, programs, infrastructure, resources, and investment over a 10-year period. So our recommendation is that Newcastle Beach with sand, chain link fence, picnic tables, ball diamonds, repair fencing, safety capping, repair dugouts, and repair to the infield, and of course the infamous gopher control. Outdoor arena repairs, repaint, and make sure that the boards are safe for any activity that might go on there, including pickleball courts, netting, basketball hoops, horseshoe pits, and with the dog park expansion, extending the fencing and dog park amenities. So, as I mentioned earlier, we've been taking the lead and implementing this initiative, and the money would come out of the previous carryover of the capital budget requests. Dog park, 30,000, the Newcastle Recreation Beach improvement, 100,000, and the Parks and Recreation Master Plan outcomes, which I should mention also includes the playground audit that was done, and we would make sure that all of those would be safe for our residents here. And we would be working with the infrastructure department and exploring some other grant opportunities and support of the master plan. And as you can see, this is just an estimate as far as the capital budget allocation and project plan. This policy lines up with the endorsement of the capital fund allocation, supports the achievement of the council's strategic priority and to focus on projects that it was outlined in the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. So we have already established a communications brief that will be developed and advise the public of the master plan outcomes and execution, and to continue to meet with the Newcastle Beach Committee, slow pitch, Drumheller baseball, girls softball, which I actually just recently did, and on the progress and the improvements of the town, improvements and timelines. So we're looking for a motion.
Tom?
I move that council direct administration to proceed with the 2024 projects identified in the Parks and Recreation Master Plan as playgrounds and safety and compliance, Newcastle rink restoration, Newcastle and Rosedale ball diamonds, and Newcastle dog park.
Stephanie, second. Discussion? Tom?
So over the last few years, I've had numbers of people talk to me because they realize I live in Newcastle about the town should do something with Newcastle. The town should do something with Newcastle beach area and the recreation area. It's run down. It was flooded a number of times. And so I really appreciate this effort in looking at improving this area. That being said, also, I've talked to the Newcastle Community Association, and they have been talking for the last few years about helping, partnering with the town in improving some of the Newcastle Beach recreation area. And I can assure administration that the Newcastle Community Association has some money and will direct that money towards some of these projects. We actually don't have the money right now. We have a casino coming up in June, and then we'll have money. So just qualify that.
Thank you. Crystal? You're muted still.
Sorry, now, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, getting feedback. Is that better?
You have quite an echo. I don't know what's happening.
Can you hear me now? Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
So just in regards to with the rink boards, I know it does flood quite often down there, and I'm just concerned about those getting redone. But my other biggest concern is just what's happening with Midland outdoor rink, right? They have their funding in place. They're going to start construction, which also includes all these same amenities that are happening in Newcastle. And I'm just wondering, are we going to be competing with Midland when it comes to this new putting the money into the Newcastle? And if it's going to be competing with Midland, should we maybe consider, let's let Midland get theirs up and running and then see if we still need for these extra pickleball courts and basketball courts in Newcastle? So that is my one concern. So sure if we need an amendment or if we need to have more discussion on this, that would be.
Stephanie?
Just in comments to Crystal's comment, it might be good to have them in all areas just for kids that maybe don't have the transportation to get over to Midland. I know the bridge will be there for walking, but it might be nice to have that there for the residents there, and then for like, if you think about any baseball tournaments that are happening down there and having that for other people that are watching or families that come with them to use as well.
Heather?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with the plan. I guess, Rick, I'm kind of questioning the timelines, especially the ball diamonds and obviously the Newcastle Beach there being done late 24, because pretty much then the season for a lot of that has ended. And I know that our ball players have been extremely patient with our diamonds, so I would love to see those moved up and maybe a little bit of switching around as to what gets done first. I would like to thank you, Tom, on behalf of the Newcastle Association. That's wonderful. And I'm just wondering on this whole that I kind of with Crystal on these expansions. I'm just wondering if we've got too many things we're trying to do. Like, I would really love to see how that whole Midland plays out, and maybe determining how that plays out will really give us an idea of exactly what else our community is missing. So if I'm not sure that plan, I believe they're going to do Midland here early this year, and maybe that other stuff can be held off until later fall to see, or even early next spring just to see. I just think it's there's a lot of work going on in the valley, and I can just see our energies being allowing a community that wants to get that done, and then we can see what we need after. That's my thoughts.
Go ahead.
Thank you for that. So just to address the first issue, I have been in touch with Midland, and actually part of the money with the cooperation of that particular organization, we're looking at putting an outdoor, field fencing, because that seems to be one of the problems in terms of attracting any tournaments or other types of play there, and so rather it be wide open. So that addresses one of the contributions that could possibly be made from the monies that we're talking about. And second of all, I think that when you look at the ball diamonds in particular, they are unsafe. I think we need to make sure we capture that the poster on the inside. This was, demonstrated and in the master plan itself. This was a priority that we needed to do in this next year or two. And furthermore, to the other point, um, it what I when I spoke to the three organizations that use those particular ball diamonds, um, they were actually the ones that said, make sure that you give yourself some time, especially when it comes to, the seating and the grounds itself. But all of those other things that are mentioned in the plan, including the capping, the shale, the fencing, the backstop, will be done with before May. And I already have Mother's Day is marked as the day that everybody gets going. So we have addressed that, and I can assure you that majority of these things will get done. The I wanted to be realistic as far as the outfield is concerned and the grounds and what's going to take to nourish those parts of the field effectively. And I think also the dog park is one thing that I think can easily get done. And as far as the pickleball courts and basketball courts, I think it'll be great for the people in that particular area to have the advantage, like a lot of other communities, to have the advantage to use the facilities as they are. So I think it's a safety issue. I just wanted to emphasize that point. Thank you.
Heather?
Yeah, I'm not disputing, absolutely. I 100% agree with you, and that's why when you say that fencing, posted capping, all of that stuff, you in your presentation you got late 2024. I'm saying that's probably a priority for early spring of 24. So if that's the case, I would just probably update your schedules a bit. That's more my concern. If those are things that we should get done, they should be done more. The bleachers and stuff, absolutely over time. The dog park over time. But yeah, the safety of the ball diamonds, I think, is a high priority. And I think the safety of the beach is a high priority, having that fence, dividing that space. So yeah, if we could have those couple changes, I'd be happy with the presentation as you have it. Thank you.
Uh, so can we continue with this motion and change those timelines, or?
Yeah, so I think what I've heard is that if we can advance these things, so I think if we said that it's completed by fall, right? The idea if you can complete them earlier, like there are some challenges with the beach work because you do need Alberta environment approval, so you may not get that right away. But I think some of those other pieces in there, if there's an ability to complete those early, right, working with the ball teams, then let's make that happen, right? So.
I just have a couple of questions. With the pickleball installation, are these sort of going to be a passive site where people can just roll up and it's ready to go? You don't have to be getting equipment from other places so that people can just come and use, or?
Right. As part of the presentation I made previously, the idea would be is to use that skate shack as a place that we would store the equipment, and then people there'd be an activation or sorry a lock that people can call in, and we'd give them the code. They could use the equipment. At the end, they would simply put it back after their play. So yes, I've already accounted for that for people to use the facility and the equipment.
Excellent. And my other thoughts were that many of the rinks that we have, outdoor rinks in the winter, are maintained by the community associations. They install the ice, they do that. First of all, will we be installing ice every year? Will we be doing it? Will we be looking for volunteers? How will we maintain that piece if we develop it in the winter?
A good question. Actually, just recently I had a fellow reach out to Kevin Blanchett first and then myself. And he's very interested and he has experience with outdoor rinks. And with the weather permitting, if he can make that happen, he's willing to take that on as his little pet project. So that's part of the good news is, which I wasn't expecting initially. So part of the good news is we do have someone in the community that's ready to do it. And he was ready to do it this year, but with the boards being the way they were and so unsafe, we didn't think it would be prudent to move ahead with it for this year, but certainly for next year.
Thank you. Crystal, you have another question?
Can you hear me okay?
You're echoing again.
There, that should be better.
It's great.
I guess, so, Newcastle Rink is town-owned, correct? It's not the Newcastle Recreations,
That's correct. Yes.
okay? Whereas the other ones are actually the community associations own those other rinks. Like I'm talking about Nackmine, Midland, Rosedale.
Yes, also correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, I just wanted, because I think there's some confusion amongst the community on how the Newcastle is connected to the town, right? So just wanted to clarify that. I guess just, I still, I'm hesitant for us to put money into the Newcastle one for the pickleball and the basketball nets and stuff. I get it. Will be a great benefit to the Newcastle community. I just was kind of hoping we would delay it just a bit just to see how the Midland one does work out. So that's just my feedback.
Thank you.
Just one other point, when I mentioned to the baseball folks at our meeting the other day, they were really excited about the additions because a lot of them come with families and there's not a heck of a lot for them to do. So if we had the basketball courts there or perhaps even the pickleball courts, maybe while mom is playing, dad and the children can use those, those amenities. And so I just wanted to share that with people. People were really excited about all of the options that were going to be down in Newcastle while they are playing or their children are playing. Uh, so I just thought I'd mention it. Thank you.
Further discussion? Hearing none with that direction taken, all in favor? Carried. Crusher. Dennis. Again, because we're running into the schedule with the public hearings, I would actually like to jump to 8.6.2, request for decision from Drumheller Municipal Airport courtesy car purchase.
Hello, thank you for seeing me today. So going over this, we are looking to incorporate a courtesy car into the airport's budget, and we're looking to pay for it through donations mostly. So our Drumheller Municipal Airport Commission passed a motion for our members to begin soliciting for donations for the purchase of an airport courtesy car. We have an upset limit of about $12,000, and currently we have about $9,000 donated or pledged towards us. We'd be looking to use this vehicle up at the airport for all visiting pilots. Will be able to access the Drumheller Valley quickly and easily. When the courtesy car is stationed at the airport previously, it was used up to 87 times in 2022 and up to 67 times in 2023. And I'm hoping that we can surpass those numbers greatly when we get one back. The donations we have gotten have been from local businesses and private citizens, and we're looking to have them have advertising on the vehicle as well. We are hoping that the maintenance, registration, and insurance of the courtesy vehicle will be roughly $4,000 to $5,000, with the majority of that money actually being for insurance. And I'm recommending that the administration recommends the council approve adding the courtesy car to the airport operating budget.
Thank you. Do we have a motion? Tony?
I move that council approve utilizing donated funds for the purchase of a vehicle for use as a courtesy car at the Drumheller Municipal Airport, and that the courtesy car operating costs be added to the airport operating budget.
Second, Stephanie? Questions? Tom?
Just a couple of questions. So adding it to the operating budget, have you estimated the insurance costs, for example? This seems to be a little bit of a strange kind of situation where you're going to have numbers of different drivers driving this vehicle. I'm just wondering what the insurance might be like.
That's why our insurance or the maintenance insurance costs and everything was going to be upwards towards $5,000. Currently unsure about what the actual insurance cost will be. We can't get a quote until we have a vehicle. What I've been quoted in the past, and I do have it on the financial impact part of it, is that I was able to just pull some VINs off the internet and get some quotes for a 2012 Dodge. This would have been under my insurance policy as myself, and got it from one of the local insurance agencies. We were getting quotes from about 12,000 to 15. $1,200 to $1,500. That was low. Even the agent said something's not right here. So I'd really like to. We'd have to wait until we get the actual car before we're able to know what the insurance is. The insurance will be through the town of Drumheller, but it won't be a part of the fleet insurance.
Stephanie?
You may, sorry, just not quite
Pardon me,
finished.
continue.
You may want to talk to our Director of Protective Services of making sure that you get the license number to get a parking pass.
Stephanie?
Does the courtesy car get used very often in the winter?
Yes and no. We obviously don't have a lot of traffic in the winter time, so that brings it down. But I believe that by having a courtesy car here during the winter, we might actually bring traffic back up again, because it would allow people to have something to do, not just a flight out to get fuel.
Awesome. So that is on your radar. I was just curious about it, 4x4 and stuff in the winter and roads being a little more treacherous and making sure everything was safe. So thank you.
Heather?
Thank you, Dennis. Yeah, this is, first off, I'd like to thank Bob Shetty. He hands down went and collected all these funds to pay for this car. So a shout out to him for all his efforts. And a shout out to Bonnyvilles, who actually were managing the airport on a volunteer basis prior. And they're the ones who kind of got this vehicle thing going, because they would actually let people use their own vehicles. But this has shown that there's another avenue of tourism that we can tap into here, which would really help our businesses and everything else. And then the other thing they're going to do is those who do use the vehicle will be required to, put money in for paying for gas and stuff like that. So over those collections, they're also going to set up some kind of tapping card so that people can make donations for helping with that. So this should be almost end up being a self-sufficient program. And thanks, Dennis, for all your work on it.
Thank you.
Are we able to maintain this vehicle through our own staff and programs that we have now, or is it?
Yes, Patrick, you can do that. Yep.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
Again, because of the time, I'm hoping that we could have a motion to suspend the meeting so we can facilitate a public hearing starting at 5:30. Can someone make a motion to suspend the meeting? Stephanie?
I motion to suspend the meeting for our public hearing.
Second? Tom? All in favor? Carried. For the public hearings, thank you. Good afternoon. I'd like to open the public hearing for bylaw 0224 Nackmine West End Road closure at 5:36 p.m. If Daryl, would you like to give us a synopsis?
Sure, Pat. So there are 4 road closures. And so just to be clear about sort of the overview of when road is not the term that we use, it's a provincial terminology and it's really a right of way. So the best way to describe it is the road that everyone drives down on a street is actually much less than a right of way. And so the right of way is usually 20 meters wide. It can be a little bit less, but a road is only 7 to 9 meters of that distance. And so the remainder of the right of way can be sidewalk, boulevard, etc. In Nackmine, not unlike other portions of Drumheller, a lot of right of ways or roads are actually what's called undeveloped. So they actually don't have a road on them. They've always been listed as a right of way. Thinking about how Alberta was developed over 100 years ago with the section township range established, townships established. There's a lot of right of ways that if you look on a map that are just fields or they're the sides of the hills or whatever, and they are not actually roads, but they are owned by the province. So in municipal law, cities through their own charters have are responsible for all roadways or right of ways within their boundaries. Towns, villages, hamlets, etc., are all managed by all those roads are under the control and care of the province. And so, not unlike Highway 9 through town or 575, which is actually a highway, it's more specifically a public road and public right of way. All of our streets in town, whether it's 3rd Avenue in Nackmine are shown on the screen, or Center Street, all are under the control of the province of Alberta. And so if we want to do anything with those roads, we are delegated certain responsibilities, but if we want to close a right of way for any reason, we need to go through the process that we're doing right now, which is going through 3 hearings of a bylaw, 3 readings of a bylaw and including a public hearing. So with that in mind, the 02.24, this bylaw is to close the portion in yellow that is in Nackmine on 1st Street and 3rd Avenue. So this little triangle right here is needing to be closed because the town is required to own all the land that berms will be placed on. And so that is a requirement from the province of Alberta. They can't be placed on any roadways or any rights of ways. They must be placed on land that is owned and controlled by the town in the town's name. So for this roadway closure, we're proposing to close the area that is in yellow, the yellow triangle. So you can see that very little of that is actually a street. It's just the corner of the street that's actually being closed. The rest of it is, for those who know that area, there's a little trail that goes down towards the campground. And so there's a little ditch in there, there's a bridge. So it's closing off some of that land because that's where the berm will be constructed. It will cross diagonally across the corner of the property there. So we are looking to just take that much of the land in that area, and the rest of it will remain open to the public. So.
Thank you for that, Daryl. I'm going to outline the rules of conduct for public participation in this public hearing. All materials associated with the public hearing will be included in the package being sent to Alberta Transportation. We request that you only present material associated with the proposed bylaw. If there are questions that we may need to address them at a future meeting. We ask that you respect the views of everyone here and allow each person their time to speak. And council may ask the presenters questions once the presentation is finished. Have there been anybody to register remotely?
No, there has not.
Do we have speakers here this evening?
Yes, we do.
Can we call the first one, please?
Can I have Priscilla Poland, please?
Priscilla Poland?
Priscilla, would you like to speak?
Poland, and I live on First Street.
Before we, just 1 second.
Oh.
Yeah, but please begin by stating your full name.
Priscilla Poland.
Are you in support or opposed of the proposed bylaw?
I haven't heard enough about it to be opposed or for it.
Okay. And you are a resident of Drumheller?
Yeah, I live in Nakmine. I live on that street.
Great. So please continue now.
Okay. What I'm wondering is, down that street, you mentioned there's a bridge that leads down to the river, like a walking bridge,
Yes, that's correct.
and
Yeah.
you're saying it'll be gone. Will
What I think,
anything be erected to take its place? Because that's where a lot of the tourists come up from the campground up to our area to walk to the grocery store, to the liquor store, to walk back.
so they'll be able to walk over the berm that's being erected there. I think that we are maintaining the creek. I'm looking to Dagan to, if she has any information on that part. What we know is that the berm is actually going closer to we're trying to stay out of people's property as much as possible. So it's going to be closer to the river at that area. So you'll be able to go up and over the berm walking, but I don't know exactly what we're doing with the bridge that's there over that little creek. So.
Okay. Another question I was wondering, is there gonna ever be a parking lot down in that corner for people to park?
We have no intention
No
for
intentions
that
of
as
doing
part of,
that?
yeah, not as part of this project, nor as part of, certainly not this road closure, no.
Okay. All right.
And I'll just speak to what we're doing with the creek. We are realigning the creek a little bit to the west of First Street. I'm just looking at the drawing right now. But I don't believe that the bridge itself will be impacted. And the berm where it crosses the road right away is actually quite low height. So it's not a very tall structure
Not
there. The
very
ground
tall.
is very close to the flood elevation.
All right. Okay, I guess that ends my question then. Thank you.
Do anyone from council have questions for Priscilla? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Comstock? Gary? Hi, would you like to speak, sir?
Well, I turn.
Yep.
Yep.
Just have a seat here.
Yes. Good afternoon. Can you please state your full name?
My name is George Comstock. I
Can
live
you
on Second Street in
just
Nakmine,
before we continue?
and I really don't have any effect from this possible change, except I'd like to see the steps going down to the river remain. I assume they will. I don't
So,
know.
Mr. Comstock, if I can
would
interject.
appreciate any consideration to leave those steps in place and have the path along the river remain much as it is, unless you're going to build a berm along there and have a pathway along the berm.
Mr. Comstock,
Yeah.
just before we continue, we just need, because this is a public hearing, we need to get some of the information down for the record for the province. So I need you to state whether you're opposed or support this bylaw.
Yeah. So that's about all I have to say. So thank you for the opportunity.
And then just one quick, you are a resident of Drumheller. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Do we have another speaker?
Indeed. Nikki Briggs?
Hello, my name is Nicky Briggs. I'm a
Um,
resident of Drumheller.
and can you say if you support or oppose to the proposed bylaw?
Currently, I do not support it.
Thank you. Please proceed.
So what is the plan for all of the water that drains through this area? Currently, all of the water from First Street drains down to that corner, as well as all of the water from Second Street, on the west side of Second Street, all drains down, and it actually goes around the corner, and everything flows right into that corner, and then down into the, I would assume the creek, and then into the river.
So part of the berm construction in that area is to construct a flow through, like a structure that goes through the berm to actually continue the drainage in that area, with a gate on the wet side of the berm. So,
Okay. Will any of the drainage be improved when you're constructing stuff over here? Because right now it sucks.
There's no drainage improvements planned for the streets at all. It won't be worse than it is now. Let's just say that. It would be like, there's no intention to actually change unless we actually are doing something with respect to areas that are on the edge of the pavement. So.
Okay, thank you.
Crystal has
Before you, Nikki, Crystal does have a question for you.
I just a comment to that. I live in Midland, and we actually on 16th Street we had a major problem with drainage. And once the berm was constructed and a new drainage was installed, it has eliminated that water pooling on 16th Street completely. So just just that's the experience in Midland. So I'm hoping that's going to be the same in Nakman as well. So.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions? Do we have any other speaker on?
Rob Dick? I'll speak on the next one. Okay, thank you. Gary Boucher?
Hi, my name is Gary Boucher, and I live in Nakmine.
And are you in support or opposed to the proposed bylaw?
I'm on the line right now. My major question is, seeing all these other berms being built, where are they going to put all the equipment to do the berm there? That's all housing along that whole area, and there's a lot of kids. You're going to have a lot of heavy equipment in there. Where are they going to park it?
So Gary, and just a reminder to everybody, there's berm discussion. We can have that at a separate time. This is strictly about road closure. So this is a very formal process, everyone. So we have someone that's recording all this information that we need to submit to Alberta Transportation only. So if it's not pertaining to the closure of this piece, right, please, there will be other opportunities to speak, but it's just very specifically about the closures of these pieces of land. So
I'll come back then.
I think your question, though, if you want it, is that it's not unlike all the other areas of like Newcastle and Midland where there was lots of people, Willow Estates. So the contractors are well prepared to be able to handle anything that's close to housing, close to traffic and kids. So.
Okay, that was my concern on this one.
Questions from council? Oh, Tom, go ahead.
Not a question, just a comment. I echo the feelings of people who want to maintain the access down there. I've ridden my bike down there, down that path many times, down into the campground and around. So as long as that's maintained, I think this will be really good.
Thank you. Further? Do we have another speaker?
Mm-hmm. Ken Margart? Sorry. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Deborah Wirtz?
Miss Deborah Wirtz.
Are you in support or opposed to this proposed bylaw?
I'm not sure yet. Okay. I need more information.
Okay, and I can confirm you're a resident of Drumheller?
Yeah, that's my house right there on that corner.
Great.
So I see all the residents and the people that use the walking trail. And my worry is if they're just going to have like a berm that goes over, is it going to be wheelchair and stroller accessible for people to still go down and enjoy the trail and river? Because, just going over a berm, if it's grass or whatever. I'm just thinking like we have a bridge that goes down and we see people with wheelchairs and scooters and small children can go down. But if they take that out, they're going to have to replace it with something, I would think, to make it accessible for everyone to go down and use the trail.
And that's a great question and comment. I think that that's something we can take away for the berm designers there. So like
Okay.
the intent would be is that it's like we probably wouldn't pave it. I think as Dagan said, it's not very high at that point.
Okay.
But we can certainly take a look at that and take that into account with the designer there.
Okay. That would be everything then.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Questions
thank
from
you.
council? Thank you. Further speakers on this proposed bylaw?
Kara Dam? You good? Okay, thank you. That will be all the speakers.
Are there any written submissions?
There are not.
Does any councillors have any final comments? With that, I would like to declare the public hearing for bylaw 0224 Nackmine West End Road closure closed at 5:52. Continuing on, I'd like to open the public hearing for bylaw 0324 Nackmine 4th Street Road closure at 5:53. Again, Daryl, if you could please give us a synopsis of this one.
Just give me 1 second here. I just need to switch my drawing around. Sorry.
Pat,
Go ahead.
just so the public knows, when I click on the link under 6.2, it actually sends a link to the previous bylaw, 02.24, just so that people are aware.
Okay. I'm going to try mine right now. I was just trying to find it.
If you go onto the website under bylaws and go to proposed bylaws, which is at the top of that page, you will see all 4 of these bylaws plus the RFDs and the schedules available. My
Thank you.
apologies for the link issue.
All right, bylaw 03.24. So this is, and I will see if I can alternate between the two. So I'll show the air photo first of this area. So this is one of the things I mentioned earlier, an undeveloped road right of way. So this land in yellow is part of the original. So this goes back again, parts of Nackmine were developed 90 to 100 years ago. And this was originally set aside by the province as a road right of way. So there was intention to actually put a road or some sort of structure, public area along this. So we know that over time, especially because there's been no development of it, that it's been taken over by people. We can see that there's stuff in here. However, this is also where the berm needs to go along this area here. So the area to the east of it is currently privately held land that we're going through the expropriation process on. The property to the east over on the right side of the page is the town of Drumheller public utility land, and this road right of way, which is made up of a few road plans because of development over time, is what we're proposing to close under this bylaw here. So there is a plan that basically encompasses this area, a road plan, and then a road plan at this area. And again, to reiterate, it's a right of way. The road is it's the name that the province uses, that legal surveyors use. As we can all see, there is no roadway in this area. So what we're proposing is that this is closed to the public to allow for the construction of the Nackmine berm through this area.
Thank you, Daryl. I'm going to reiterate the rules of conduct for public participation. All materials associated with the public hearing will be included in the package being sent to Alberta Transportation. We request that you only present material associated with the proposed bylaw. If there are any questions, we may need to address them at a future meeting. We ask that you use respect of the views of everyone here and allow each person their time to speak. Council may ask the presenters questions once the presentation is finished. Do we have anyone who's registered remotely?
No, we do not.
Do we have presenters registered to speak this evening?
Yes.
Thank you. Please proceed with them.
Nikki Briggs. We're good. Thank you so much, sir. Robert Dick. Rod, sorry. Sorry, Rod. Well, these things happen sometimes.
Good evening, Rod. Do we start by stating your full name?
Rodney Dick.
And are you in support or opposed to the proposed bylaw?
Well, I'm pretty much opposed to it.
And you are a resident of Drumheller?
I live on 3rd Street, right on the corner of 3rd Street, 2nd Avenue.
Thank you. Please proceed then.
I guess I'm more opposed to the berm portion of it, and that's what most of my questions pertain to. But I'm not going to get into that too much. But it's obvious if you annex this, the berm's going there. Right? Yeah, so
Yes.
that's my reason for being opposed to it. I'm not in favor of the berm. I'm not in favor of tearing out all these trees. I belong to an organization, the Alberta Fish and Game, that believes in no net loss of habitat, which is what the province is going for, which is what Canada is shooting for. And I don't see all these trees and all this habitat getting replaced anywhere in this valley. I haven't seen it so far. There's been a couple of little parks, so I'd rather we didn't tear out anymore. I've lived there for 40 years. The only 2 floods we've ever had has been in 05 and in 12, I guess it was, 12 or 13. And in one of them, the water came up that cul-de-sac about a third of the way, and that's it.
So going back to the road closure as opposed to the berm.
Mm-hmm.
Please continue.
If you don't get the road closure, you don't get the berm, right?
Okay.
That's my point.
Do we have, thank you.
That's all I got on this.
Do we have questions from council? Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, just a comment. Any estimate, Dagan, on how many trees have been replanted in the last year or two that the flood mitigation has done?
I know in the tree replacement contract for the projects that started in 2022, there was approximately 4,000 trees called for replacement, and we will be doing similar for Knackmine and Rosedale, 5-to-1 replacement for any trees and shrubs that are in good condition that are removed.
Well, you have removed far more than 4,000 trees. There's more than 4,000 trees right there.
Sorry.
I mean, it depends what you're going to call a tree. Every little trunk coming out of the ground is a tree. And there's a lot of them. And when you're replacing 40, 50-year-old poplars with saplings, that's not really replacing. I mean, it will in 40 or 50 years maybe, but it's not replacing what's there now. So.
Again, if we can come back to the road closure.
You brought up the trees there.
Okay. Any further questions? Thank you then.
Okay.
Do we have more speakers?
Gary Boucher.
Thanks, Gary. I'm just going to have to ask you to present again because it'll be a separate file each proposed one. So your full name?
My name is Gary Boucher, and I live in Knackmine.
And are you in support or opposed to the bylaw?
This will be, if you can answer the question.
Thank you.
Now you're taking this, is this a land transfer through the province, or do we have to buy the land from the province in order to put that road closure in?
It is a land transfer. So what happens when a municipality closes a right of way, the land is transferred at no cost to the municipality.
Okay, so our taxes won't go up in Knackmine to purchase this land. That's was my
nor,
concern.
nor
That's-
anywhere else in Drumheller, because taxes aren't by neighborhood, they're by the whole community. So yes, they will not go up because of the acquisition of any of these parcels of land. So,
Okay. That answers my question.
yeah.
No questions for Gary?
Tom's being quiet.
Thank you. Do we have further speakers?
Ken? Thank you. Deborah? And Kara? Thank you.
Are there any written submissions?
There are not.
Does council have any further questions or comments? Hearing none, I will close this public hearing at 6:02. And I will open the public hearing for proposed bylaw 0424 Knack Mine 8th Street Road closure at 6:02 p.m.
All right, thank you. So this is, again, another undeveloped right-of-way. So this is 8th Street, the extension that goes to the Red Deer River. We are requiring the land that is basically parallel to the river at this point. So I believe we need approximately this much land in here for the berm. However, there is a couple of things, as the owner is in our gallery tonight. So this property serves one property owner, and there's a log cabin slash shed slash workshop that's been on the property for 90 years or so, according to Mr. Decour. And so, but this is actually almost 100% in the right of way. So normally, not normally, we never allow people to build on streets inside public rights of way. So what we'd like to do at the end of this is be able to do a land swap with Mr. Decour, the owner of this adjacent property, to be able to trade some of the land we need here for the berm for the remainder of this, to allow this parcel, when it's sold and in the future, to be fully compliant. Because as of today, it's not compliant, and technically the town of Drumheller owns this cabin, not Mr. Decour. So we'd like to actually make all of that right through these pieces. As for those who are listening to some of our earlier ones in Rosedale, there are a lot of little weird things that we have done in Drumheller or the MDA Badlands over time. And we're trying to correct some of that through the land, through these land transfers here. So what we're proposing is to close this piece of land in yellow off to from a road, make this a private entrance to 215, and use some of this at the river's edge for the berm construction, and hopefully sell this remainder to the adjacent landowner so they can then have that land consolidated and be able to have their workshop, garage, cabin entirely on their land.
Thank you, Daryl. I'm going to, again, because it is a public hearing, the rules of conduct for public participation. All materials associated with the public hearing will be included in the package being sent to Alberta Transportation. We request that you present material associated with the proposed bylaw. If there are questions, we may need to address them at a future meeting. We ask that you respect the views of everyone here and allow each person their time to speak. Council may ask presenters questions once the presentation is finished. Do we have anybody who is registered remotely?
We do not.
Do we have presenters who are registered to speak here this evening?
Yes.
Can we proceed then?
Jim Decor?
Good evening, Jim. I begin to ask for you to please state your full name.
My full name is Jimmy Decor.
And are you a support or opposed to the proposed bylaw?
I'm opposed to the way it is presented here.
And are you a resident of Drumheller?
That's all my property you're talking about.
Absolutely understand that. Just need to get it on the.
Yes.
So please proceed.
Yes. I'm not opposed to you taking part of that street for the berm, but I am opposed that you're blocking off the whole street. If I don't have access off that street to my property, there's no way I can get on my property because I have no frontage. The only access is off that right of way, which is the continuation of 8th Street all the way to the river. And so that's the reason I am opposed to that. I would think that all you would need is that piece of land at the top portion there, the top quarter, top third, just for your berm and there, yes.
Yeah, this area right here. Yes.
I don't understand why you want to take that, the rest of it. And one of the things that really upset me here in your letter, it says, therefore to hold or sell any surplus land as council sees fit. So the rest of that property where the arrow is all the way down to there, if you decided to sell it, I would have no access to my property.
So that's if I can answer, so that's a standard clause, Jim, and our goal and hope is that we actually sell it to you because we could absolutely have just sort of made this portion here the road closure, but I hope you understand that your buildings aren't on your property.
I understand that.
So there's only one way to make it correct, and that is to actually take the land that we have that we're proposing to close, and actually, once closed, we could sell it to you, so then you could make that garage like on your property. And then you would have access off of 8th Street to be able to get into your land, and you would have that log cabin on there forevermore. Right.
Okay, but you're dealing with acquiring property for the berm with the provincial government.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
I think so. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Like
so
from.
So the rest of that land is not really the province isn't interested in.
Right. So we could. So I just want to be clear, and I don't want to sound jerky, right? But we could absolutely amend this to say that it is just simply this piece to the north end of your property, just in here. However, what will you do with this building? Because you will never own the land that it sits under.
No, well, I did have a thought that I could lease it from you.
But it wouldn't be you couldn't lease it from us because we don't own it. It's actually a road. You see our problem here is that we want to close the right of way so we can actually turn it into a titled parcel of land. So we all live on land that has a title to it, that's titled with land titles. Road right of ways have no titles. So you can't lease a road right of way. You can't occupy it. You're not supposed to occupy a road right of way. So by us closing it and changing basically taking the land that is needed from the right of way for the berm, it leaves a piece that's here at the end. If you look up at the screen, it leaves all of this here for us to then do something with you. But under the current situation, we can't, right? Because it's considered a legal right of way. So it'd be no different than putting your garage on in the middle of Center Street, right? It's a legal right of way. The only thing is this is undeveloped, serves one person versus many people.
Except that log cabin was built there. It's close to 150 years old. And it was built there prior to the roads being developed or laid out even.
Yes, except the problem is that
it was squatters' land there.
These roads are registered with the province. Your building is not. So we're trying to make it right. Like you may not understand it, but at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is actually make it right for you and give you this land so that you can actually have your building on your land because it's not currently.
Tom. Go ahead, Tom.
You said something earlier about a possible land swap. So do we need part of Jim's land towards the river?
Yeah, yes, we do, Tom. We need this
And
piece.
so would the value of that land that we need of Jim's toward the river be comparable to the land that he has his buildings on right now, approximate, or?
Pretty much bang on. With the square footage is almost the same. So in in a perfect world, we would be able to do a no money changes hands land swap, because we need land from you adjacent to the river, and it's equal, almost equal in area to the land that we would want to swap with you. So that would be something that we would actually really like to investigate further with you, if you're willing to do that. Right?
Well, it's a free world. You can talk, you can present what you want, but I don't know if I agree. But my big, because the property there involves the berm, and what you're doing is taking my garage down, and you're taking my sheds down, the storage sheds, and I know this is addressing the berm problem, but this property is involved with the berm.
I think that we can have a discussion offline, Jim, if that's okay, like just you and us to talk about what we can do for a swap. We can figure out sheds and other outbuildings there. Specifically going back to what Pat has said, this is about the road closure here. So we've offered an opportunity to say, you know, again, if we thought at the end of the day we needed to amend this because you weren't amenable to this piece at all, that could be something we could do. However, I think one of the things I should have said in my preamble at the very beginning is that these don't happen in a week or two, right? Like we have, right now, we're the ones that we did in 2022, Riverside Drive road closure in April of 2022, we just received in September of 2023. So that's how long these things take. So it's a very long process, not by us. We're actually very quick with it. It's once it goes into Alberta Transportation, it takes a long time for them to do it. So our while we want to get it right now, we also know that we have time to be able to adjust it if we think we need to. But not starting this now means that there's a likelihood that we don't actually have the land in a year from now. So we really want to, we can still talk about this thing, but we want to make sure that we're actually moving on, closing the road. And if at the end of the day, it doesn't change our ability to not do anything with the land, it just means that we absolutely have no ability to deal with it if it stays a road, as a road right of way, sorry.
Heather, you've got a comment?
Yes, hi, Jim. I guess I just want to reiterate from a council perspective, it's not that council at all wants to take your land. In fact, the thing is, we want to get this straightened out so that you actually own that. So in future, you know, when somebody else, if you ever decide to sell your property or whatever, all of this is already done for you so that you don't have to deal with any of the surveying and litigation and stuff like that. So this is the goal, is to try and get the berm built, but at the same time, get your area cleaned up. So it really is it's an advantage to get this done for you. And I know Daryl will work hard to work with you to get this straightened out. So again, just reiterate, this is trying to get this cleaned up for you so that, yes, somewhere down the way, if you go to sell and somebody does a survey, they'll realize that isn't actually the part of the property. So let's get it onto your name, get it fixed up so that it's good for you going forward.
Okay, it sounds good, but we'll see.
Yeah, let's have a discussion outside of this after, and we can see if we can come to a resolution. So,
okay.
Thank you, Jim. Further questions from council? Thank you. Do we have further speakers?
Jim McCabe?
My name is Jim McCabe, resident of Knack Mine, and I own the property upstream from Jim Decora's property. And
before we proceed, can you
Sorry.
state whether you're in support or opposed to the proposal?
I'm up in the air right now, sorry.
Understandable. No, thank you. Please proceed.
The question that I've got, and I hate to get back to the berm thing, but what effect this land swap is going to have on the positioning of the berm on my property? Because I have said from the very beginning, well, it's years ago now, that I would prefer to lose some of my lawn as opposed to the trees along the riverbank in my property. So if it is going to shift if the land swap is going to shift the berm towards the river where I lose my trees, I'm opposed in that situation. And as I understand it, the town is wanting to do a new survey on my property. At this point, I've had 4 different plans for what is going to happen on my property. So that's about all I've got.
So I think to answer your question, so a land swap, if there is one at the end of the day, does not alter at all the location of the berm, like the berm, the berm footprint. And I believe, I'm answering for Dagan, but I believe the whole purpose of sort of an additional survey on there is that the engineers are trying really hard to see if they can massage gently the location of the berm to try to save some trees. That doesn't mean moving it 20 feet or you know, in some cases even 5 feet, because we have to recognize this is a very long piece and you can't alter it at every single property. So
yeah, and I'll just speak to the question about the survey. So as part of purchasing the land, we need a very accurate plan to register with land titles. And so our surveyors have to go out and follow a formal process for gathering that data and staking that out. So that's what they're hoping to do in the coming weeks as we start to get ready to assemble the land here. So that was why some of the previous surveyors might not have followed the same formal process. They were just collecting the ground data, collecting the tree data, things like that. And that's why this one is different.
Okay. As far as I can tell, the berm has been moving in the direction that I want to see it move. So from the last spring to August of this year, it seems to be moving in a direction that suits me.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay.
Do you have, is there any questions for Mr. McCabe from council? I see none. Thank you. Do we have further speakers?
Gary? No, I'm good. Thank you. Ken? Deborah? Okay. And Kara? Thank you, that's all.
Are there any written submissions?
No, there are not.
Do we have any final comments from council? Hearing none, then I will close this public hearing at 6:20 p.m. And I'll open the public hearing for proposed bylaw 0524 Knackmine Hunter Drive road closure at 6:20 p.m.
thank you, Pat. So this one is proposing to close the east end and east access of Hunter Drive into Knackmine. So this, all of these lands in this area of this is an older air photos. These properties have all been turned into just a natural habitat. This area is a floodway in here, which is why the berm, why these properties were bought out. And the berm is going to come around this sewage lift station and come up 964 and tie into the edge of the highway up here. So basically, there's a berm will cross Hunter Drive. I believe at that point, the berm is around a meter high, I think. And so the idea is to create a cul-de-sac or turnaround at this point here and allow, have this road closed off here. And we would have this area closed as well, this approach closed off. And this would be turned into natural habitat, which is one of the requirements that the province has said for us for any areas that are in the floodway area. So the properties off of the roadway off of 9th Avenue, and I apologize, I didn't get to the picture that far, will still be able to access, I believe there's 5 parcels in here, including the lift station. You'll be able to access it off of 9th Street. And you'll be able to also go straight north into on 9th and 2nd Avenue, and then also turn west onto Hunter Drive. So again, this is the only reason we're closing this is because there will be a hump here, and it is from a safety standpoint that we don't want to have. I can't help but think of Dukes of Hazzard moments where people are driving down the road here and going over a big hump. So this is really about closing this road off because there will be a berm crossing here and tying into close to the highway. So.
Thank you, Daryl. I'll outline the rules of conduct for public participation. All the material associated with the public hearing will be included in the package being sent to Alberta Transportation. We request that you only present on material associated with the proposed bylaw. If there are questions, we may need to address them at a future meeting. We ask that you respect the views of everyone here and allow each person time to speak. And council may ask the presenter questions once the presentation is finished. Has there been anyone to register remotely?
No.
Do we have people presenting this evening?
Yes.
Please continue.
Gary? Thank you. Ken? Deborah? And Kara? Okay. That's all.
Do we have any written submissions?
We do not.
Tom, would you like to comment?
Yeah, just a bit of a comment about the kind of the Newcastle to Knackwine biking trail. So this road will remain there, so that'll be, or is that going to be, that's not going to be plowed up or anything,
It'll be
or?
partially removed, so just to prevent people from trying to go over it. So there is a painted line that bisects the roadway from the trail, so that piece will remain. The trail piece will remain, but the pavement would be removed, as would the approach. If I'm looking at the drawing here, as would this approach at this end here, so that no one would be able to get down into here to access it. So
yeah.
So you could access it for absolutely off of this trail in here, and this would continue, but we wouldn't allow vehicle traffic at all, like powered vehicle traffic. So.
Good, thanks.
Further comments or questions from council? Further comments or questions from council? Seeing none, I will close this meeting at 6:24 p.m. Thank you for all that attended and participated. We appreciate that. Do we want to take 5 minutes before we begin our meeting, or are we all good?
Let's take 2 minutes here.
We'll take a 2-minute break here before we proceed with the remainder of our regular council meeting agenda. 6:30. We'll resume at 6:30 p.m. Thanks. Thank you. I'd like to recall to order the regular council meeting of February 5th, 2024, and we'll move on to agenda item number 7.5, Director of Emergency and Protective Services, request for decision, parking communications and implementation plan update.
Thank you, Mr. Kalafa, Mrs. Kohlberg, and members of council present. Before you is an RFD regarding the outline of the paid parking program for 2024. Anticipating, with the support of council, a May 1st launch date. We've worked closely with the communications officer to come up with a communications plan and timeline, some of which is included at the very end of the RFD before the four motions. We anticipate much work to be done in the next few weeks, and prior to the anticipated start of May 1st, I will return and update council as to everything that's been done, will be done, and what's on the go at that time. So perhaps sometime in early April, we'll discuss with the CAO how a timeline for that. As I've mentioned before, we anticipate being able to hire supplementary to establishment summer students, seasonal enforcement officers that will be sworn in as municipal enforcement officers, but on a temporary basis, referred to sometimes as supernumerary or beyond what is required ordinarily by the establishment. We also will seeking to place a one officer largely dedicated to the area around the world's largest dinosaur in the arena to assist people, as there's a considerable traffic in that area, as everyone is aware. And anticipate reporting back to council how the program went in November of this year. We do anticipate there will be, not to sound corny, but there will be growing pains. There will be lots of work being done as we seek to find the most efficient, streamlined, and proper way to conduct the program. We have learned a great deal, and we've spent a great deal of time on the program in January. I did have a meeting today with our representative from Hotspot, but that we're going to have to adjourn it. He couldn't keep our meeting today. Regarding exemptions, we are seeking to stick to the program as Hotspot designed it as closely as possible. If we find our feet this year and we get beyond the parking exemptions for residents of Drumheller and the moderated permit, which we can institute for events at the BCF, memberships at the Badlands Community Facility, basically that is an exemption, a code that can be implemented. So people would be exempted if they were checked by an enforcement officer on the license plate recognition technology device. They would show up as exempted for a certain period of time. Whether if it's a monthly membership at the BCF, it would be put in the system for that long. I'm not trying to sound corny, but that's basically, I'm just going to say, we put this into the system to give a certain license plate exemption showing identical to the enforcement officer as the resident exemption that's already inside the system. To that end, we are recommending that this year the exemptions be limited to those two resident permit and the moderated permit. We are also seeking no 15-minute free parking of any kind because that is a virtual nightmare of trying to enforce that in a fair and equitable manner. We've been over with Hotspot. I've talked to people across the country that use, not just Hotspot, but other paid parking systems. And again, I'm trying to sound corny, but there is no automatic force field or something that would tell us as soon as somebody comes in. It would require vehicles being checked and then rechecked, and a duplication of efforts and time that I don't think in the first year is going to be helpful to us getting the program off the ground. Everyone is aware of the lots. I expect that the lots in areas that we will be enforcing the parking on. I stress, as members of council have stressed since the outset of considering a paid parking program, that the collection of funds is to offset costs that the residents of Drumheller pay through their tax dollars to support tourism and visitors to the valley, which we welcome, of course, but there is a considerable cost of time, resources, on staff, on the town of Drumheller infrastructure every year with the advent of 500,000 plus and much more. We go by the numbers at the museum, but there's much more than 500,000 people come to the valley. The communication strategy, which we have worked with communications officer and will continue to execute on a timeline that we have established in the next few months. I can't place enough thanks to the communications department, and especially Brett, how they've helped us out. Brett, would you like to comment on anything regarding the comms plan at this time?
Yeah, so in front of you is the detailed comms plan. We have it written out just in words, and then we also have a timeline and a breakdown of the mediums in which we intend to go forward with. We're going to utilize a double-tiered approach, the first tier being that of awareness, so bringing it back forward, getting people registered for the parking permits, and then making people aware also of the moderated permits that are being brought forward. That tier will go from February, March, and April, and then it will compound with our second tier, and that will be kind of information about enforcement that beginning in April and May. So within the comms plan, we cover social media campaigns, paper advertisements, monitors at recreation facilities, announcement at councils. We are also intending on exploring lunch and learn opportunities and potentially going into lodges to have conversations with residents there who may be having issues with setting up their program. Yeah, as we get further down into May, as we know that's kind of the start of tourist season, we have chainsaw wizards and everything. We intend to have some hard copy flyers down there just to hand out and be on site to answer any questions, hopefully hit the residents and the visitors in that time frame. And moving forward, we will be having conversations with Travel Drumheller as well as the Chamber. So, yeah.
Thank you, Brett. I'm happy to answer any questions council may have, and note on the last page, please note the 4 motions brought before you.
Thank you, Greg. As you'd mentioned, there are 4 proposed motions to open discussion. Can we get a motion for potentially the first one if someone is interested? Tom?
Yeah, I move that council directs administration to commence the Town of Drumheller paid parking program using the Hotspot Incorporated paid parking system at designated lots in Drumheller commencing May 1st and ending October 31st, 2024.
Second, Crystal? Discussion? We'll go Tom then.
So I hope people realize that the town is not really happy about having to have visitors to the valley pay for their parking. In an ideal world, the town wouldn't have to do that. But I think people have to realize that the town's cost of doing business has gone up considerably, especially over the last 2 or 3 years. And the town, I'm going to say desperately, needs revenue. And people say, you know, the town should have more industry. And I tell them, yes, the town tries to get industry, tries to get businesses, but we're in competition with a few hundred other municipalities in the province. We do have, however, an industry, and it's called tourism. And right now, lots of businesses in the town make money off of tourism, but tourism doesn't really benefit the town itself. It actually costs the town money in facilities and infrastructure and cleaning and maintaining tourism kind of facilities. So the town needs to recoup some of that money, and the paid parking system should do that. We have budgeted in our operational budget about $200,000 in revenue from the paid parking system. $200,000 equates to over 2% of an increase in taxes to the residents of Drumheller. So if we do not do the paid parking, if we did not do the paid parking and we didn't get that 200,000, conceivably taxes to Drumheller residents would have gone up another 2%, over 2%. So that's how we are looking at this, is that this is a necessary evil. And if the town doesn't come up with revenue in ways like this, then I don't know what we're going to do financially for the town.
Heather?
Yeah, I just kind of want to, a few things here. I'm actually in Edmonton, and I had a meeting last night with the mayor of Jasper, Banff, Canmore, and Sylvan Lake. And we're all kind of in the same boat. We're all little tiny communities with great big increase in populations for the summer events, summer seasons, and obviously Banff is even more year round. And we're all kind of discussing the same things as the cost of tourism to the residents of the municipalities. And those communities have implemented paid parking for some time now. In fact, a few of them are making revenues of over $1 million. And however, even with like someone like Banff, who's similar size to us, their visitor attendance is like 2.5 million. And so the cost of infrastructure, water, sewer, garbage, bylaw, RCMP, roads, sidewalks, all of this stuff is on the backs of the small, actual, in our case, 4,000 taxpayers. So after listening to these mayors here and understanding that they're at, we're all love tourism. We all love that it helps our businesses, it brings people to our communities, but we all realize that the cost of that tourism has to be offset somewhere. Now, we as a community are trying to do a few things. We've tried to work with, we're working with Minister Fear's Office of Culture, trying to work on the parking, seeing if we can come up with some parking program with the museum. We're working with Minister Fear's office regarding admissions, seeing if we can add $1 to the admission, and that kind of offsets to our community. We're also looking at different ways of creating revenue streams. And anybody out there that's listening, I mean, if you have the ideas that can help our community increase revenue streams from the visitors, as I've always said, if we could get $1 off of every visitor, that's $500,000 to $750,000 a year. That's an absolute game changer. And unfortunately, we've been fighting this fight for some time, and I commend council for having the strength to go forward with the parking, because like I say, if we can even get close to what Banff and Jasper and Canmore and Sylvan are making on parking, that will definitely help. So it's not like we wanted to sit here and implement parking to be difficult. We're trying to look after our actual residents. So I also I was wanting to just also remind that we still are working with our counties, our reeves. In fact, Daryl and I have been going back and forth the document, trying to, show how we can come up with solutions and give them options and stuff like that. So we'll continue to work on that as well. And I just think that at the end of the day, we love our residents and we love our visitors. We just have to remember we're a small community. And last night with my meeting with those other mayors reinforced that we are doing the right thing. And if there's any suggestions, please bring them forward to council. We're all ears. So thank you.
Thank you. Crystal?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm also at the same conference as Mayor Goldberg as well, and I've had a conversation with the mayor of Banff. And in their first year of implementing the paid parking, they had less than 0.01% of their residents register so that they could get their permits. So I'm hoping we could target the same, and hopefully this plan works with meeting our residents and being able to help them fill out the application process online. And so hopefully by the end of the year, we also have less than 1% of our residents that have not registered. So that would be really good if the team could work on that. Thank you.
Stephanie?
So I just want to kind of check in, reiterate that, you know, if we launch this and some things aren't working properly, we can always go back and fix them and change the way things kind of operate.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that's what I need time to find efficiencies, to find how things work. I'm fully confident it will work. We just need an opportunity and the faith to carry it out. I'm not, you know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tony?
A lot of work done on this, Greg, and yes, a lot of nice findings in the pilot, but I think you hit it right there. I mean, we're still at the walking stage. We're going to walk into this, and we're going to have some more learnings in this first year, and down the road, it will perfect itself. So, hotspot is utilized in a lot of areas. If you can keep it simple and don't monkey with the system, I guess you set yourself up for a better degree of success. So I'm happy to see that there was a moderate pilot there. The important piece, though, is to get residents registered in that system to get them exempted from the paid parking. I'll reiterate what Tom had said too. This is a lesser of two evils here that we're plowing forward with. We need to create a revenue stream. Yes, we did put 200,000 in anticipated revenues in the operating budget this year. Without that, it would have been a 6.25% tax increase instead of the 4 that we got it to. So I'm hopeful that this would put a hold and a reduction going forward based on the success of a program. But I think we're all at a place here now where things aren't getting cheaper. And, you know, just a recent one is the reopening of the suspension bridge. That was 2 years and a lot of money that came from taxpayers where it should have come from a fund like that, because that is a directly tourist related. So patient with us and patience with you. This next year is still going to be a learning. So good on you. Let's walk through this.
Heather?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, on the timeline, Brett and Greg, is there any chance where the hard copy handouts at the front desk, recreation facilities, VIC, et cetera, could that be like started like now, like in February, and not, because if you have a very detailed step-by-step on this handout as to how to register, I think that, you know, more people would grab the handout and get themselves registered. So I would like to see that moved up. And as well, I know that we've got the lunch and learns. We've also got here, it says, I'm trying to read the calendar, sorry. Where it said in like the lunch and learn opportunities, but I would really, really like to see a calendar in advance for residents to be able to say, okay, somebody will be at the, you know, sitting in the BCF on this day, and somebody will be at the library on this day, and somebody will be at the pool on this day. That way, you know, at least if, and I'm sure that there's counselors as well as myself that will, you know, we would take a spot on some of this. I just think that some of this hands-on approach, because again, as Crystal reiterated, speaking with different people here, in fact, in Sylvan Lake, they are on hotspot as well. And they said that the sooner they got their residents on this thing, the less issues there were at the time of release. So I think there's got to be just a bit more, some hands-on efforts in February and March, rather than waiting till April, a month before it's all taking off. So I'd love to see more efforts put in February, March, in-person stuff. And a calendar showing that. So thank you.
Further? Yeah, I'll I'll echo a little bit about what Mayor Kohlberg says, that, yeah, I feel that the in-person engagement, well, obviously not the most efficient at times, I think does go a long way. And I appreciate the really robust communications program, and I'm looking at, further things on that end. One quick clarification with Greg. When we were discussing this earlier, there was talk of that we're looking at 3 staff coming in. This isn't an increase on what we typically get in the summer when we are doing the hoodoos, or is this beyond that?
No, nearly identical, sir.
Thank you.
Would, yeah, three or four summer students of a different stripe than we hoped to hire for this, but the numbers, yes.
Thank you. Not hearing any further discussion, I will, for this motion, I'll ask all in favor. Carried. We have a second proposed motion that council directed. Do we have somebody that would be willing to make that? Tony?
I move that council directs administration to administer parking exemptions to Drumheller residents as permitted under the residential parking permit option within Hotspot Incorporated paid parking system regulations and rules.
Do we have a second? Heather? Further comment? Tom?
Yeah, just one comment. I think there are a lot of residents who don't realize that where the paid parking lots are. I think there's a bit of a misconception out there that some of the people I've talked to say, well, we're going to have to pay downtown. We're going to have to pay at the IGA. We're going to have to, and they don't really realize that if they're not going to the pool or the world's largest dinosaur, if they're not going to the BCF, if they're not going to the swinging bridge, you know what I'm saying? They actually don't need to register because there's no paid parking at the Extra Foods or the A&W, or you know what I'm saying? So that's one thing that we can also make sure that we communicate that, like, for example, my wife, she doesn't need a paid parking permit because she never goes to any of those places. So just to reiterate that.
Further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call all in favor. Carried. We have a third proposed motion. Is somebody interested in making that motion? Stephanie?
I move that council directs administration to implement parking exemptions for persons having paid memberships or attending specified events at the Badland Community Facility under the moderated permit option within the Hotspot Incorporated paid parking system regulations and times.
Second? Tony?
Sorry, I think, I'm not sure which, do you have a different version? Like, you didn't say the end of it, sorry. The motion? I heard you say time as the end of it, but I have rules on my agenda. If you just repeat that, please.
Yeah. I move that council directs administration to implement parking exemptions for persons having paid memberships or attending specified events at the Badlands Community Facility under the moderated permit option within the Hotspot Incorporated paid parking system regulations and rules.
The second? Tony? We did that. Discussion? I'd like to ask if you could just give a brief synopsis for people who are listening just about the moderated permit option. Is it built within the app, or how would this go about?
No, it would be, for example, Mr. Ledesser, for example, has 10 memberships for a 2-month period at the BCF, for example. They would be given a code as part of their membership. And then when they come in to log in their vehicle, they enter that code just like anybody would as you register for the paid parking in the app. But the code, the entry of the valid code is the exemption.
And that would work for just members and?
Work for the duration of the time that the person's membership is valid. Could be employed for a wedding or a large event, conference. When somebody's given their joining instructions for a conference example, they would be given the code for the paid parking exemption at the time.
And there'd be no changes if it was somebody that was a member for their fees or anything?
I'm sorry?
If there was a person who was a member of the BCF, is that including with this, and there would be no change in fees, or?
No, there's no change in fees. This would be the part of the for the first year. This is what we're proposing to operate as.
Thank you.
Sorry, I have a question. So is it a unique code that's just given to an individual? And is there anything stopping me from sharing it on
That's
Facebook?
just it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it could be, it could be flim-flammed and yeah. And there's that, some of that does happen. People I've talked to across the country, in fact, one fellow, he and I have similar backgrounds, runs the municipal enforcement in part of Ontario, and that's exactly the similar things he's come across. And sometimes there's nothing, you know, people will go through, an enforcement officer will go through and check 50, 60, 100 vehicles, and they will show up as being exempted without seeking further inquiry. There are going to be some, under the present rules, there are going to be some that, if they choose to, you know, abuse the privilege and give the code out.
Thank you. Further discussion? Crystal, go ahead.
So again, we're just gonna collect the information from this year, see how it's working. We can always make some adjustments, correct?
Yes, I expect we've learned so much already, but I think we've just, not to sound corny, scratched the surface. We've learned lots and we're prepared. However, we will learn more as we go on. Talking to people that have run the program, some are starting their second year. What they've told me about their first year, we've taken to heart. Some of the issues will just happen. Like, for example, there will be multiple challenges to tickets, and we have a process how this will be addressed. So there will be, but it's finding the time, fitting it in with everything else, and I'm confident we can do that. We just need to get into it and get it working.
Our residents to register.
Thank you. Heather? Go ahead, Heather.
Greg, so I'm assuming that the system, I could tell you today that there's like 324 residents registered, correct?
Yes, Mrs. Colbert, correct.
So then could we just get an update every Monday to, you know, just give us a number every Monday so we can see that the, you know, whatever we're doing on the communication side, or if we're doing enough. So if you could just give us an update every Monday, it's just that hopefully that number is every Monday is getting more and more. And so we know that we're getting close, or else we got to figure out how to redirect. So yeah, it'd be great to have that update. Thanks, Greg.
Yep, we can do that. Thank you.
Hearing no further discussion, I'll ask all in favor. Carried. And we have one final proposed motion if someone wishes to proceed. Tom?
Yeah, I move that council directs administration to operate the Hotspot Incorporated paid parking system within its existing regulations and rules, and that a 15-minute free parking concession at any location in Drumheller not be a part of any paid parking system or parking enforcement operation.
Second? Tony? Tony? Discussion? Hearing no discussion. All in favor? Carried. Moving on to 8.6.1, request for,
Sorry,
I just want to send a thank you to Greg and his team and everybody else, Brett, everybody involved. This has been a very complex and hard program to get implemented, and we know the stress is put on all of you. So Thank you for all the work you've done, and we will be here to help you, like I say, try and get as many registered as we can, so that hopefully when May comes along, there's not as much not as much on your shoulders. So thanks for everything.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to go back for a second. Crystal, did you vote for that last motion or were you opposed?
No, I voted for it, sorry.
Okay, sorry, I just didn't see you. I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
8.6.1, request for decision, concrete crushing for stockpiling request for tender. Mr. Kevin?
Good evening, Your Worship, councillors, administration, and members of the gallery. Tonight I'm here to present a request for decision for the award of concrete crushing for stockpiling. Summary. The town maintains a stockpile of concrete at the Drumheller Regional Landfill. These materials come to the landfill as a result of local construction projects. The stockpile requires crushing to generate gravel, which is then used for various town projects. On January 9, 2024, the town of Drumheller posted a request for quotation for concrete crushing for stockpiling on the bids and tenders, Alberta Purchasing Connections, and the town of Drumheller websites, as per purchasing policy C-02-17. On January 24, 2024, 3 tender submissions were received and are summarized as follows. Park Paving Limited provided a price at $358,034.30. PME Incorporated provided a price of $455,976.79. Concrete Crushers Incorporated provided a price of $496,859.00. It is our recommendation that the concrete crushing for stockpiling tender be awarded to Park Paving for the amount of $358,034.30.
Thank you.
Over.
I was gonna say, however, you have to also make a motion to transfer money because we don't have enough money in the capital budget. So there's 2 motions to make there, Kevin. We have to transfer $200,000 from operating reserves to be able to cover
financial impact. The approved 2024 capital budget includes an allocation of $200,000 for this work. An additional $175,000 will need to be transferred from reserves to fully fund the work and contingencies. Portions of this project, will be used for quality control testing and confirming volumes once the project is completed.
Thank you, Kevin. So we have 2 potential motions proposed here. Was somebody willing to make the first? Tony?
I move that council approve the additional funds be allocated to the 2024 concrete crushing for stockpiling capital project from capital reserves in the amount of $175,000 even to be utilized in addition to the existing capital project budget of $200,000 for a total project budget of $375,000.
We have a second? Crystal? Discussion further? Tom?
Yeah. So this stuff is going to be used by us, and then it's also going to be sold as well, or?
Number one, Councillor Zrisky, it'll be used for the sub base for our roads, our sidewalks, and our trails. I do not think we have enough inventory to put it for sale to the public.
I guess my second comment would be $375,000 just to break up some concrete. I think if we hired about 100 unemployed people and gave them sledgehammers, just saying.
I'm just going to read something out of the 2020 crushing program we had, just to give you an indication of what the prices were back then and what they are now. 2022, when we crushed concrete, we crushed it at $15.64 a metric ton. Now it costs $30.10 per metric ton. That's a 3-year window. Things have gone up.
But this is a savings as if we were actually going to purchase this stuff for using as our bases.
It's a twofold there, Councillor Kalafa. Number one is we need the space at the Drumheller landfill. If we do not crush the concrete, we have no room for the residents or the surrounding areas to bring the concrete into the town. So economically, it is viable. Environmentally, it is sound. We have to get rid of the concrete.
Thanks. Further, just Crystal?
Just wanted to comment, so this crushed gravel, this same thing that is gonna be on the surface of the path system that we've done, right, out to Rosedale, that's what that crushed gravel looks like?
The crushed gravel will be similar to, it'll be a sub-base product. It's not the finished product, so once the sub-base product is down there, we can apply asphalt or a asphalt millings to the finished surface.
But the section from Walmart to Rosedale, that was just the crushed gravel?
That's correct.
Correct. Okay, thank you.
Tom?
Just wondering if some of the concrete came from the old hospital? Or where do we get the concrete to crush?
Concrete we're getting to crush has been from the old hospital. Any residential, commercial buildings that have had to get rid of their concrete, that's where they take it to the landfill.
The landfill has a pricing structure, and I think we talk about the cost of this, but we don't talk about the avoided costs. So currently it's $2 a metric ton to take concrete to the landfill and put it off to the side for crushing. But if we chose to put it in the landfill itself, it's $67 a ton. So it's absolutely the cost avoidance by doing this, and the fact we have used this material. We have crushed twice in the last. This will be the third time in the last 6 years. We use this material all over it, and in fact, we did sell some of this a couple of years ago to Raptor Ridge. So when we have enough material, we do actually market it as an alternative to mining gravel, virgin gravel.
Stephanie?
So just so I can understand better, so instead of paying the 60-some dollars, we pay the $2 in order to, they let us set it aside, but with the agreement that we crush it.
That's right, and that's for anybody. So whether it's a residential, you're knocking your sidewalk out, or it's a lot of when our sidewalks are being redone under the street improvement program, or the old hospital site, or any other concrete, that's all put aside for crushing in the future.
So we're keeping stuff out of the landfill as well, so we're doing good.
Seeing no further discussion, I call all in favor. Carried. There it is. And one further proposed motion or potential motion, if someone, Stephanie?
I move that council approve the award of the concrete crushing for stockpiling tender to Park Paving Limited for the amount of $358,034.30, exclusive of GST.
Second. Tony? Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Thank you for that. Now, we'll be moving into closed session, so I'd like to get a motion to allow us to do that. Tony?
I move that council close the meeting to the public to discuss strategic development and planning as per FOIP 23, local public body confidence, FOIP 24, advice from officials, and FOIP 25, disclosure harmful to economic and other interests of a public body.
Second. Tom? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. That's the end of our public portion of the meeting. Good evening.